I might, if I don't see them, it's just because I've temporarily closed the chat. So just, I'm not ignoring you. I guess I would say, like, I'll look at the chat. But I might, if when I share my screen, I might not be able to have the chat open. So
That's okay. So like we can plan on answering questions in the chat at the end.
sounds good.
That work? All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. We have Galena joining us today from the Pacific Northwest. She runs the micro flower farm. So, Galena, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Oh, thanks for having me. It's so fun to connect with other dahlia lovers across the country. Honestly, it's one of my favorite parts about growing dahlias is getting to know so many people who love the flowers like I do. Um, as you know, I'm Galena. I live in Battleground, Washington, which isn't a very commonly known city. So it's about 20 minutes from Portland, Oregon, which I think more people are aware of where Portland is. I live on 6 acres currently with my husband and 4 kids, but we actually only moved here in June. And before that, I lived on half an acre, still in this area. And I grew about 2,000 dahlias on that. That also had our house. Um, so we, with 4 kids and that many dahlias, we were looking for more space and we stumbled across this property. And we moved to our current property, which is 6 acres in June. And so I'm sure some of you can sympathize, but moving a farm in June and having to plant everything was not a fun thing, and I don't recommend it ever. But we closed on June 1st. The owners had let us have access to the property about 2 weeks before we closed, which was very nice. So I hired a guy and he came in and he tilled our field, which was in the screen share. So this picture is like a couple days before June 1st. We moved in and I didn't even care if we unpacked the house. All I cared about was getting all the dahlias in the ground. And I had I had decided I was going to grow 5,000 that year, which when I decided that, I didn't know I was going to be moving. I might have chosen differently had I known. But regardless, 5,000 it was. So fast forward, this picture was somehow I did it. Everything else went kind of to crap, but the dahlias got in and they bloomed and they were like my total babies. So this picture was taken in September. So I think that maybe that was like the one thing that I was proud about this year was that somehow I managed to move a farm and plant all the dahlias and they somehow survived and still looked beautiful. And that was like my peace. Like that was where I went when I felt stressed all that year. But um like backtrack a little bit, I started growing flowers in general, but also dahlias in 2020. Um, I have a little bit of an obsessive nature when I decide to get into anything. So when I decided to start growing flowers, I just went straight down the rabbit hole, and there was absolutely no persuading me otherwise that, to do anything else. So I've gone all in. That's why I grow 5,000. Next year, the goal is 10,000, which honestly, I will say as I'm digging them, I am second guessing that decision a little bit, and that decision might change by the time I'm done dividing because currently it's just me doing it all. I don't really trust other people to help me divide unless they actually grow dahlias themselves. But unfortunately, everyone who grows dahlias is also digging and dividing all at this time. So there's no one who I feel like is qualified to help me. Some of my growing friends, we are we belabor the fact that we would all gladly help each other, but we all are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time, so we can't. So as far as I also grow other flowers, I kind of grow it all, but dahlias definitely are like the bulk of like my summer and my fall in what I grow. I'm very particular about sanitation, so I don't do U-picks. I don't let other people cut my flowers.
Nice.
I cull very aggressively, but I don't test everything. I do kind of fall under the line of like cull anything, like throw out anything that has like viral signs. I sanitize between plants when I cut. I sanitize between plants when I divide, and then I leave it at that. Um, because it's a garden, in my opinion. So I feel like that's like what I can do that is sustainable for me and what I work with. But I don't do U-picks for that reason. Again, it's like I don't trust other people to sanitize to the level that I want to sanitize. Um, Also, my farm is also my family's home. So with kids, I don't really have it open up for tours at this point, although I do want to do that on some level for Dahlia societies, not the general public, but I want to be able to let, especially like our local Dahlia society to come through in like the future years. I love having people to show the flowers, but just having it open for people to come like any day is not, I'm not Swan Island in that regard. I farm very organically. I prefer to use organic methods in what I do, and I use a lot of beneficial companion planting and insects in helping control the bad pests. I also discovered recently with on a podcast with Jenny Love, who does a lot of regenerative agriculture, a way to kind of increase the sugar content in plants to make them unpalatable to insects that might chew on them. This is something that like a lot of food farmers do, especially people who work in like the grape and the wine industry. They measure the sugar content because they need a certain sugar content for their wine, but it also works in a way to keep insects like thrips from like chomping down on it. It doesn't kill them, but it just makes them not able to digest the leaves. So they just don't want to chew on the plant. So one of the ways that you can artificially raise the sugar content in your plant is by spraying molasses on the ground, like the soil, or the plant foliage. So I do that earlier in my season. I've been doing this for a few years now, and I do credit that to why I don't have a lot of pest pressure that actually attacks my plants. A lot of the people in my area have to use like organza bags because of cucumber beetles. Um, I never have to because they just like they're there, but they don't chew on them. They don't chew on the plants. So I'd be happy to like answer more questions about that afterward if you guys are interested in hearing about that. I fully admit that it sounds a little cuckoo, and I was a little bit like, huh, really? Like molasses? Come on. But I have found that it's worked wonders. It's not a fertilizer, so you can't really overdo it. It's not a pesticide, so it's not killing anything. It's really just insects. Like every class of insect has a certain level of sugar that they can naturally digest. And so if you raise the number enough, it will weed out classes of insects because they'll take a bite and they just can't, their bodies just can't process it. So they leave it alone and they move on to something else. So yes, Paula, it's Brix levels. Brix is just a name for sugar. So I found that really interesting, and I've incorporated that a lot in my farming. And like I said, it's done wonders to just organically manage pests without having to constantly spray pesticides, or use the organza bags to cover the blooms, which works, but is kind of a pain if you've ever had to do it. I can't say if it works with Japanese beetles because we don't have them in our area yet, although I know they're coming. Because my inspector, every time she comes, she's like, well, it's just a matter of time, unfortunately. So I'm sure I'll have to deal with them at some point, but they're not quite here. One of the other things I like to do, I'll share my screen here, is really include, I'm a homeschool mom, so this is my daughter. She's my oldest. And I love including my kids in farming and growing flowers. She's taken a real interest in growing from seed. That's another thing that I've been delving into is hybridizing. I consider myself a complete newbie at it. I'm taking it very slowly, but I grew about 800 seedlings this year, and Emily, my daughter, would come out with me and she'd be like, that one has a bad center, Mom. You might want to cross this one with something else. I'd be looking at one. She's like, don't do that one. So she's super cute. She wants to have her own seedling patch next year. So we're gonna do that together. And then these are two of my boys. I have three boys and one girl. And my littlest there in the blue shirt will go out and he'll take a bucket. His favorite thing this summer was to take a bucket, and he'd just walk through and he'd pop the heads all off. And he'd bring me a bucket full of popped heads, and he'd be like, here, Mom, I picked flowers for you. Which is totally fine. I absolutely think that's super sweet. And I don't really have to worry about sanitation because he's not cutting anything. So it's great. They really love it. I try really hard to make flowers and farming something that's really fun for them and not something that they feel is just like a load of work. Because like one of my biggest goals as a parent, but also as someone who wants to see this go on to like the next generation, is for them to see the joy of growing flowers. Because we all know it's a ton of work, and kids I think, can start feeling like it's all work. So I really try and encourage the joy that they can get out of the beauty. This is another view of our farm. So this is looking towards the house. I think this is about the middle of the field. Um, our property came with a big barn, which I honestly actually didn't think I wanted a barn until I had a barn, and now I love having a barn. So we built a cooler in that, which is where I store them. I could leave them in the ground if I wanted to, but I don't because I sell them. So I dig them up every fall, and then I'll divide them over December, and then I usually have a sale in January or February, depending upon when I finish dividing. I like to be done dividing before I do a sale. This is another view. I think I grew about close to 500 varieties this year. I keep trying to cut down the amount of varieties that I have, and it keeps not working at all. The beginning of this year, I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to sell off 50 varieties, and I'm only going to buy 50 varieties so I can like stay in the 200 range. And then I went and bought like 220 more varieties. So it did not work at all. I'm at this point, I've just acknowledged that it won't. I'd like to keep it. I mean, I probably shouldn't even say this because if I do, I'll end up with way more, but I would at least like to keep it under 500 because a lot more than that just sounds like a lot to keep organized. But who knows? I have a hard time saying no if I think something is really beautiful. I do grow a lot for cut flowers, so you won't find a lot of like the massive 10 to 12 inch dahlias in my field. I do a lot of bouquet design. Here's a picture. Let me move this. So I grow other flowers as well, like companion flowers that go well with dahlias. So I do a lot of cut flower and bouquet design. So I do really prioritize the ball varieties that kind of are in within that 2 to 4 inch range. Although I also really do love like the formal and informal decoratives that are in that size. I don't grow a lot of singles. I don't grow a lot of like the big massive ones, although I do think they're really fun. So I added about 8 varieties of those to my field this year. Because they're just so massive. Like there's just something so fun about walking through your field and seeing like this dahlia that's twice as big as your head. Um, well, my head, I have a small head, but they're big. They're big. Um, this was one of my favorites. This was a newer one that I grew. This is Miss Honey, and it was hybridized by the Bowleys, who live out in Washington. It's about, I'd say, like 2.5 inches, but it was like a 5 foot plant in my field, and it really prolific. It was an adorable dahlia, and I think that if I was like going to recommend one to try and trial, I'd recommend this one because it just stopped me every time I walked by in the field. A really beautiful golden yellow color that just, it was just really special. The Bullies always do a really good job with their hybridizing, and I felt fortunate to get this one because a lot of theirs go like really quickly. Me So companion plants that I like to use with my dahlias is one of the ones that I like to do are dwarf marigolds, and I will plant them under my dahlias. And one of the reasons why I do it is that slugs prefer the marigolds to the dahlias. So I don't plant them thinking, oh, the marigolds are gonna like stay there looking beautiful, but it's almost like a trap crop in a way. They'll go for the marigolds while the dahlias are like getting tall, and then the dahlias will be tall enough and they'll stop bothering them. So I do a lot of marigolds. Other than that, I at this point I plant my dahlias in rows. So I will interplant like cosmos or zinnias sometimes just to kind of break up and give something that the pollinators um, will be attracted to, because a lot of the dahlias I grow don't have an open center right away. So something that will kind of like start bringing in the pollinators. But other than that, I don't plant a lot with them. I have other rows that are dedicated to flowers. And then I do a lot of cottage gardens, and I'll interplant my dahlias in those, but that's more for um, like looks and not production. So most of the dahlias that I grow, I do plant to prioritize efficiency because I grow so many and I'm the only person who's taking care of them. So I have to kind of keep them all together. I plant my dahlias 12 inches apart. And this year I did 3 per row. So 3 foot row and like 1, 2, 3, 12 inches apart. Next year I'm going to do 2 across, and I'm actually doing that to make labeling easier. They grew just fine the way I did it this year, but labeling was a bit of a it was a lot more work when they were 3 apart. So I'm going to do 2 apart next year. I do plant in rows. When I lived on my smaller property, my rows were 3 foot wide and my paths were 12 inches wide. Because I wanted more flowers. Now and it works, but I don't recommend it. It's like there's no pathway by September, like period. Like, and no one can help you at all because you can barely get down on yourself. So on my current property, it's 3-foot rows, 3-foot paths is what I do. I support them with the corral method. So I do T-posts approximately like every 10 feet down the row. And then I will take baling twine, which is the only one that I found that doesn't like just go lax with weather. Like I've tried natural twine and it does not work. Like you get 1 week of rain and sun and it's lost all of its like tightness. So I'll corral them in like a zigzag fashion, and I usually do like one set of twine about 8 inches up from the ground, and then another set 10 inches above that, and then that's sufficient for the season. When I lived on my other property, the only way that I could handle that tighter spacing, like with almost no path, is I kept my flowers cut like constantly. So that was a lot of work because that way it kept the plant smaller and they weren't just, if you let them bloom, then they just get really, really big. So I would go through and I cut really deep because I'm cutting for cut flowers. So every 2 weeks, it was almost like my plants were cut in half because I would go through and I cut the flowers and then I'd sell them. What the companion plants that I grow for my bouquets, I grow like, I think it'd be easier to say what I don't grow because I grow pretty much everything, but some of my favorites are zinnias, cress, veronica, weirdly, raspberries. Raspberry foliage is like the longest lasting foliage that you can grow, like for real. It will last 2 weeks in a vase. It outlasts like most flowers. And I really love that. They're easy to grow, at least in my area. The Pacific Northwest is kind of like the berry center. Um, but another one, which I know a lot of people feel a little weird about, is mint. Because I know people are like, it's invasive. And yeah, it kind of is, but it's a great foliage plant, because it just keeps growing and growing. So I like apple mint, which is a little bit hard to find, but it grows really tall. It smells really good because, most dahlias don't really have a smell. So it adds like that smell factor to bouquets. Um, and it will just keep growing. So as a foliage, if you're like, well, I'm going to keep cutting it, I'd recommend mint. Um, if you feel worried about it spreading, definitely plant it in a pot or something because it will spread, but it's a great foliage. And then another one is Greek oregano. Greek oregano is another really good one that's super long lasting. Also basil. And then I struggle with this one, but in your state, it would actually do really well is celosia because it really likes hot summers and we don't always get like the hot summers that it needs. But that one just goes crazy with heat. And oh yeah, another foliage one that would do really well in your state is mahogany hibiscus. It's a burgundy plant. You can start it from seed. It grows really well. I get it off of Johnny Seed. It also really loves hot summers. So it will just like explode with growth in a place that gets hot summers and it will keep sending out stems. And it's a really, really gorgeous plant if you wanted to do bouquets. So as far as disease goes, back in, I want to say 2020, like the end of 2020 or 2021, when the virus topic became more of like it started to become more well known. I did a deep dive and I went and I studied basically every available resource that there was online about Dahlia virus. I ordered a ton of like at-home tests. I went through and I tested loads of my plants, ones that I thought had signs, ones that I didn't have signs. And I kind of recorded all of that so that I had like this backlog of information to recognize viral signs in my plants. And since then, I do not do as much testing, but I keep that backlog. So when I'm walking through my field and I'm like, and I basically am constantly staring at foliage. And I'm like, okay, that one clearly, that's vein clearing in a very obvious way. I just literally pull them out as I walk through. Um, and I'm extremely aggressive about it. I've told people that there's, you do all the work to try and find varieties, but once they're in my field, I could care less what they are. Basically, I just tell myself it doesn't even matter what they are, and I'll pull them if they have viral signs. If I'm not sure if it's viral, because sometimes it's a little hard to tell, I'll wait and I'll fertilize it and I'll see. Because sometimes the nutritional and the viral can mix a little bit. Or my more favorite way to do it is I'll go in and I'll cut the plant completely down. And then if it regrows, I'll like tag it. And if it regrows and immediately shows those signs again, I'll pull it. Um, so that's why I just have studied all the pictures that are available. I've done testing. I won't say that I'm like 100% accurate because I think that that would be an overreach for me to say that, but um, visually at least my field looks clean. So, which is what I'm going for. Um, right. So in my cooler, I keep it at, so we live in a very humid climate. I think it would be different than Ohio. I'm not sure, but our winters and our falls are basically, we're at like 100% humidity all of the time, like no matter what, just because of our rain. We get over 40 inches of rain a year, and most of that is between October and April. So my cooler stays at, it is currently at 95% humidity. So I dig my clumps up. This year, I am washing them before they go into the cooler because the soil here is more clay and it's very wet because of all our rain. So I don't want them sitting in like that extra moisture. So I'm washing them all. They're getting packed into wood chips into my cooler, which is kept at 40 degrees. It's 95% humidity, and then they stay like that until I divide them. And last year I did the same thing. I just didn't wash them first because my previous farm had very sandy soil. But same thing, same level of humidity, same temperature, and that's how I store them. I can store them in the ground too here, but like I said, I don't because I sell them. So anyway, that's like an overview of what I do. If there's like more questions about it, I'm happy to answer because there's a lot I didn't say about, oh, here's another picture. This one. This year, I kind of tried to plant by color. Next year, I'm actually going to plant most of my field off of seed collecting. So I can't, with 4 kids and homeschooling and everything else, I unfortunately don't have the time to delve into hand pollination a lot because I know how much time it takes. So I'll probably do a little bit, but I do rely mostly on the bees. So next year, what I plan to do is take the dahlias that I know are good seed parents and plant them next to dahlias I'm hoping to get like some cross pollination with. So instead of by color, like there's some certain white dahlias that are really, that like make a ton of seed. I'm going to go through and I'm going to interplant those white dahlias with ones that I'm hoping the bees will pollinate with. It will just be an experiment. I mean, obviously the bees are going to be all over the field, but I'm going to give it a go and see what happens. Insects. Well, as with everyone, I definitely do have insects. But I mentioned earlier that I use molasses to kind of up the sugar level in my plants. So they, knock on wood, they stopped attacking them. I do keep a eye out for signs, especially thrips, because I hate thrips. They're so frustrating. And but so far, I mean, it seems to be doing well. If I have a massive thrip outbreak, um, especially early in the season, and I can start to see it happening, I will go in with like Captain Jack's dead bug, which is an organic pesticide, and I will spray because I know that thrips can pass virus very quickly, and I just don't play around with them. But that I've typically only had to do that like once, like really early in the season before the flowers are even showing, like when all the dahlias are maybe like 12 inches high. Um, so, um, yes, so I buy Hybrix. It You can actually, if you can find dried molasses at like an animal feed store, you can actually sprinkle that directly on your soil, which is the faster way to do it. And you can do that like right when you plant. It can be a little bit difficult to find depending upon like what part of the country you live in, but if you can find it, that's the easiest way. You can also buy Hybrix molasses, which it doesn't have to be named that, but there's a company called Earth Juice, and they sell a product called Hybrix molasses, and you can get that off Amazon. So I've done that, and I normally do like a cup of that with 5 gallons of water, and then I'll just go through and I'll just spray both the soil and the plants. The other cool thing about molasses is that if you have like a nutritional lock in your soil, it actually can help make the nutrition, like the minerals and everything, more accessible to the plant because the molasses also helps like feed the microbes. And so it can help actually unlock the minerals in your soil, and so your plants can actually access them. So I've had success with that when I inadvertently got like a bad load of soil, which was like way too high in something and way too low in another. And using molasses helped make those minerals accessible to the plants. I'm not explaining that very well. There is actually, I promise, a science about it, but it's escaping me. But look it up about molasses and unlocking like the nutrition in your soil. Do I think that disease or virus comes with the tuber, and can it stay in the soil, and how would you deal with that? I don't, as far as in my studies, there is no study that indicates that a viral disease will, um, well, let me back that up. Viral diseases do not live in the soil. Bacterial diseases like gall will live in the soil. So, yes, I mean, if you found gall on a tuber, chances are it's going to be in the soil surrounding that. A viral disease just lives in the plant matter. So a viral disease cannot be transmitted through soil or water as far as we know. An exception to that might be tobacco streak virus. There is some indication that that can be passed by touch, but I'm not sure that the studies prove that at this point. That's mostly based off of workers smoking cigarettes, working in like fields, passing it on to the plant, supposedly. But I'm not sure that a lot of studies have been done about dahlias. But the consensus in studies is that if it's a viral thing, it lives in the plant matter. And once you destroy the plant matter, it's not going to be in your soil, it's not going to be in your water. If it's a bacterial disease like gall, it doesn't necessarily, but it certainly can be passed through soil and water. A light blush colored prolific bloomer that handles deep cuts well. 20th Avenue Memory comes to mind. That one is super prolific, really good. Also, Irish Candy, I would say, is a really good one. It's about 2.5 inches. Um, RJR is not blush, it's white. That one's not commonly known, but it's a really good seed producer. It's quite tall, 5.5 feet in my area. Very, very prolific. Kay's Mocha Jake is very prolific for me and it is an early bloomer and really pumps out the blooms. That one is not a ball form, but it's about like 4 inches and has a good base life. So those ones are all ones that come to mind for something that blooms early, often, and handles cuts really well. I sell my blooms out of my farm stand on my own property. And I also will sell for like people who want to do their own events. So I do not do weddings, but I will sell to people who are like, hey, we just want to buy the flowers and we're going to arrange for our own wedding because there is a market for that. And I just structure it honestly around what works with my family and my kids. I can't afford to be gone on weekends with my little kids. So that's where I've fallen. The cucumber beetles, it's kind of actually the same thing with the molasses. I find that really focusing on that and by extension soil health, because it's actually like both are the same thing. It's like you increase the health of your plants by focusing on your soil. Healthy plants are less likely to be attacked by bugs. Stress plants are more likely to. So, but really like the Brix numbers and levels, I find really helped with cucumber beetles. So that, when I know that they're high, they just don't attack them. And then weirdly too, not that like you want them, but if you see wasps in your field, they actually will go after cucumber beetles and eat them. So, um, I get that's a catch-22. Like you might not want wasps in your field, but they do eat the cucumber beetles. I do not pinch my dahlias more than once, but I will say that most of the dahlias I grow are kind of like 4 feet, 5 feet, like just because I'm prioritizing for ones that are good cut flowers. Most of the ones that I want to grow seem to fall in that height range. Some exceptions would be Bloomquist Jean, Bloomquist Sue, Bloomquist York. Those are all really, really tall, and they weren't in any of the pictures I shown, but I do grow them. But most of what I grow, it's like 4 to 5 feet. So people have different opinions on sanitation. I use bleach and water, so about 1 part bleach, 9 parts water. Studies have shown, unfortunately, because it corrodes your tools, that bleach is like probably the only one that actually kills all of the Dahlia viruses. 70% medical grade rubbing alcohol kills some of them, but it doesn't kill all of them. There's a way that it interacts that it doesn't get quite all of them. So I use bleach. I will say that if you can find scissors that are Teflon coated, they will not rust with bleach. And that's what I've looked for. So there's a pair of scissors. I think Christine Albright uses them from Haida Tool, and they're called Silky Teflon Floral Snips. And I use them with dividing, but you can also use them with cutting. They're really sharp. They won't work if you have to cut like a super big heavy stalk, but for everything else, they work really great. And they're Teflon coated, so I will have them sitting in bleach while I'm dividing, and they do not rust at all. So that's my recommendation is like if you want to sanitize, just try and find a tool that's Teflon coated because then you're not going to have to basically have all the frustration of your tools just resting on you constantly. I am not, Chris, I am not familiar with that dahlia. I'm sorry. There are so many dahlias that, yeah, like with over 60,000 named ones. Unfortunately, I feel like some of them do get lost and it's hard to find them. Any other questions?
So how big of a crew do you have for digging?
Just
Look,
me.
all those thousands of bulbs, and you're doing it by yourself?
Up until now, it's just been me. Literally, what day is it? Okay, November 1st, my husband went part-time in his job. He wasn't supposed to help me dig, but I roped him into it 2 days ago. So he is helping me this season, but normally in the past it has just been me. It takes a while to get it done, for sure.
Do you have freezes out there?
Can you repeat that?
Do you have freezes that you have to worry about the ground freezing?
No, no, we don't. Our winters basically fall within 30 degrees to 50 degrees Fahrenheit constantly. Like we occasionally will dip down into the teens, but it's really only for like a 5-day period if we do. And our winter is it just sticks between 30 to 50 and a load of rain. I worry about the rain more than I do about the cold because I mean, it's not, well, for example, our forecast, it didn't rain today, but it rained like the last 7 days and it's going to rain the next 10 days. And it just rains constantly. Yes, my social media handle on Instagram is microflowerfarm. And my website is also microflowerfarm.com. And that's where I sell dahlias. Kayla, I don't bleach. Well, I actually don't use shovels when I dig. I use a pitchfork. But I do not bleach them unless I pierce a tuber, because I'm digging in the soil, or on the off chance that I see gall, but frankly, I haven't seen that for quite a while. But no, um, I don't bleach them unless it's actually like pierces a tuber.
If you had to pick like your top three favorites, what would you pick?
Sorry about that notification. That's like my text was on. Um, this year, that's really hard. Kay's Rosie Joe is still like in my top three. That was probably the dahlia that got me really obsessed with dahlias because that color is something that really just speaks to my soul, like that smoky raspberry color. So that one is still there. I'm not sure it will ever get like removed out of my top three. It changes every year. It'd been easier if you asked for the top 40. Okay, let's see. Um, Miss Honey was probably in my top three this year. And then either, man, maybe Bloomquist Pink Parfait, which was a new Bloomquist one from Paul, or maybe Kay's Peachy. I have a, yeah, there's a lot. I know Kay's Rosie Joe is like the top.
Yeah.
Miss Honey, so the bullies are selling theirs through, let me just type this in. They're selling theirs through Kale Lane Dahlias for 2025 and Triple Red. And then I believe starting in 2026, sorry, there shouldn't have been apostrophe in there. Anyway, whatever. Starting in 2026, all of their dahlias will be through Triple Red. They've partnered with them to sell theirs because they want to just focus on hybridizing and not the labor of selling and digging and all of that. But I know for 2025, Kale Lane Dahlias is on Instagram under Kale Lane, and they're going to be helping them out selling them this year. So I'm rinsing, so Paula, I'm using a hose with like it's not like a pressure washer nozzle, but it's not that forceful, but it's kind of like that idea. And I'm trying to spray them off in the row to leave as much soil in the field as possible because I already amended it and I don't want that soil lost. So I'm just digging up, going down, kind of spraying them into the row to remove. I wouldn't say I'm spraying all of it off. I'm trying to aim for like 2/3 of it because I feel like they do store a little bit better until you can divide them when they have some dirt on them, at least in my climate. So that's what I'm doing. Any other questions?
Well, if nobody has any other questions, we'll kind of wrap up Galena's part. But Galena, thank you so much for joining us. I actually wrote down a bunch of stuff. I'm going to try molasses next year. But I think Tammy and I are always on the hunt to find something that's organic that can kind of help with our pest problems. So
Yeah, definitely message me if you have any questions on it. A bunch of people who've tried it have been blown away by how well it works. So
I've been trying to predatory insects, but it gets pricey as well. So
yeah.
yeah, great. Well, thanks so much, Galena, for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun. I'll probably hang around for a bit and listen to you guys chat.
All right, that works. So Sharon, I think you're up. If you want to hop on and do the photo.
Okay, can I, if I go full screen, can I still share?
Yes, you should be able to.
Do I share first or do I go
would
to?
share first. I know on PCs, sometimes your controls disappear.
So. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, and then I'm going to tell it to go to full screen. And you still see it?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So everybody, I hope, knows that have been having a photo contest. We had 94 photos submitted by 19 different photographers, and I was a little disappointed, only 31 people voting. So we had our various categories, and I'm going to show you each category. And here's the first one. But I'm not going to put a name on the first place yet because we're going to vote for best in show. So we had a three-way tie for first place in portrait. Give me a second to take those in. We had an awfully cute little baby win second prize, and Sasquatch seems to have won first place. So this is Dahlias with People and Critters. Macros, we had a tie for second place. And again, we're not saying who did first place yet. Gardens. Shows. And this one brings up, I was a little disappointed that we didn't do names for the photographs. That was just too stressful for everybody the year before. So I didn't have you send names, but the names I think really do enhance. And this one was something about her own private show. So if she had put a name to it, she said that's what it was going to be. And the enhanced category, this was where you could do things with computer tools. And so these are the 8 photos that won first place. And so now they are eligible for best in show. Take it away, Jess.
Great. I'm going to need a minute so I can add all the choices. And what is going to happen is you should get a poll on your screen that gives you 8 different choices. Each choice matches the photo. So photo 1 equals choice 1. And then on your screen, you should be able to tap the one that you like. Oh, Sharon, can you leave that up?
Oh, okay.
So they can see it. It should pop up over your slideshow too.
Oh, okay.
So you could vote. So this could go horribly wrong, but let's see if it.
We'll do a raise of hands if it doesn't work.
Oh, and there's some balloons. Did that pop up for you?
Not
No.
Not yet.
Ah, there we go.
There you go.
Now, can we vote twice? Because like there's 2 of us sitting here watching this.
I'm not sure. It might just be one, Sharon.
Okay. Then I win. I'm voting. Okay, and then see if you can pop it up a second time.
I can't. It's just this one time.
Can you make a second poll and pop that up?
Once we close this poll, what would the second be for? Sharon, what's the second poll for?
Well, so that like if there's 2 people, the second person could vote.
We can have Rob be the tiebreaker if there's
Okay.
Oh, boy.
No stress there.
Oh, no.
Okay. There's 5 people who haven't voted. I'm going to give it a little more time.
And while we're waiting, I'll say that hopefully in the next few days, I will put the names of all the photographers on the preview screen that's out on the website. So when you go and look at all the entries, you'll finally be able to know who submitted the different pictures.
Okay, Rob, do you just want to say your favorite and I'll math it, hopefully.
Okay, number 3.
All right, number 3 is the winner. With,
Got a 2 as well, so we'll take number 6.
okay, number 3 is still the winner. So, Sharon, do you want to share who
Okay.
number 3 is?
Yep, now we'll go to the next slide, and this shows you all the first
I can talk.
place winners. So that's Larry.
All right, I'm done.
All right. So congratulations to Larry. I'm not sure if he's on today. I don't think so. But Sharon, what were the prize amounts that the
Well,
winner?
I sent you what I wanted to do is, can I do what I want to do?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, first place is going to be $25, and second place it will be 20, and the grand prize will be 25. And if there's a tie, what we do is divide the amount by the number of people that tied. And in the case like where there were 3 first place winners, we will take the money from first place and second place, add it together and divide by 3. Same way they do it in golf tournaments is where I got this way of doing it. So we'll get that out. And I didn't, if anybody's wondering why we didn't do a third place, we always leave that as an option, but in every case, oddly enough, there was a big gap between first and second, and then third was like way down the number of votes. So I just went with first and second. So I
Great.
thank everybody that submitted pictures, and you'll see these popping up on our websites and maybe on the American Dahlia Society website too.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sharon, for your work in organizing everything and getting it to a place where we could vote. I appreciate it.
And like I said, the pictures will stay out on the website, and they'll have photographers' names soon.
Awesome. All right. So the one thing I kind of wanted to promote still is the upcoming holiday party is going to be December 7th. And it looks like there's 10 spots left. So if you haven't RSVP'd, please make sure to do so. We're going to cap it at 50. So there's not a lot of room left. I will send out another reminder in the next digest, which will come out that first week of December. But if you need the link, email me and I'll shoot you the link. Oh, Elizabeth, you would make me remember where the holiday party is. Let's see. Anybody remember off the top of your head?
Creekside.
Creeks. What was it, Bob?
I think it's Creekside.
Yes. And is that in Brecksville? Yes. Okay. Thanks, Tammy. All right. So any other topics or Q&A anyone has?
Yeah, did we vote on officers?
We did not vote on officers. Do we
Okay,
need to do that?
but you did send out the ADS rep.
I didn't send it out. You and Randy told me who you wanted, so I just assumed, and Chris agreed.
Oh, okay.
Do you want, we could do a vote right now though, Jerry, if you want.
No, I think that's fine. If Chris has agreed, then that's good. Is there any I think he had mentioned to me one time he hadn't heard about any meetings yet, because they usually have a Zoom meeting for the ADS reps. for the
So-
various societies?
Yeah, he wouldn't start. Chris is on the call, but he wouldn't start until 2025.
Oh, okay.
So I did see the next board meeting, Sharon. I don't know if you have it.
It's not until the spring meeting, but what I will do is I will change Chris as our, I'll add him to the ADS reps.
Okay.
And we can still leave the current ADS rep. And then when it's official in January, I can take the current ADS rep off. So that, Chris, you'll start getting reminders and information that goes to ADS reps and presidents.
And I want to say, Chris, it's in April, but I could be wrong.
Right, thanks, Jess. Thanks, Sharon.
Chris is.
Any other questions or topics you guys have? No. The only other topic I have for tonight, and feel free to stay on the call or feel free to hop off if you want. But one thing I wanted to kind of get a pulse on is currently we are selling ADS memberships through our website. And Misty kind of looked into it, and we're actually incurring an expense to sell those memberships due to the transaction fees. So I'd like to propose that we just keep the listing up, but link over to the ADS, their website, where they have an online form that people can join to become a member. So I wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts and see if that is something everybody's comfortable with.
Jess,
Yes.
I realize that I'm not, that I'm far away, but I do know another society that has tried that, and the ADS membership actually went down a little bit, and they're still going to move forward with that. I think it's a good idea for a local society to still do it, and then maybe charge an extra $1 if people are going to do it on the website to cover that fee. Because yeah, you don't want to be losing money, but I don't think people are going to sign up at 2 different locations, or as many as you think they are. But that's, just my opinion, and open to other people's opinions.
Yeah, and that's something we too could probably try to address a different way, whether we promote it through the digest or on meetings as well. The other thing that we've kind of had some problems with, I don't know if Nancy is still on this year. Misty's had yeah, I know Misty has kind of mentioned she's had to do some back and forth with Alpha a few times of like checks getting lost in the mail and a few other issues just to like reconcile who's paid. And that would kind of take the work off of Misty and Nancy to kind of manage that. I'll also say that we can ask Alva for like an Excel sheet of who is a member. And that way, Ron, you would know, did judges sign up? Are they members? And Nancy could also leverage that spreadsheet for her membership spreadsheet.
And
How much is the additional cost that we're incurring?
It was about $70, Ron.
70?
Euro, which I would rather just give the ADS $70 than spend it in transaction fees.
Yeah.
So
Well, we certainly, in my mind, want to continue to encourage DSO members to join the ADS for lots of reasons, including the importance of judges requiring that membership. But so, yeah, I don't, I wouldn't want to try to discourage or end up discouraging DSO membership in the ADS, but I also am concerned about, draining the budget by $70. Although, that in all, that means that the total for all of our ADS members that join that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nancy, I was curious to kind of, you handle membership, so I think, it's important to kind of hear from you too.
Yeah, well, I don't think I have a hard time with sending checks through the mail these days. Like our last one that we sent to Elma did get lost and we had to have it reissued. And that's one of my problems with that system.
Yep.
I will say when somebody signs up with ADS online, they get an immediate letter, welcoming them to the society, giving them the password, blah, 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 blah. So, and the money goes, right into the account. So that's a good thing from the ADS side.
That's very good because when it comes to us, especially like when everybody's starting to renew, we save them in batches. So we wait till we get a batch together and then send it along. So that them getting acknowledged takes longer. And especially if, I try to get them in as soon as I can. So in case if they're, want to get the digest and the all the publications and stuff.
Yeah, and they pull the digest mailing list way early. So the mailing list for the December bulletin is pulled on November 1st. So it's really good to have the membership there almost immediately. If somebody takes out a DSO membership, they get an acknowledgement when they're done, I assume.
Yes.
And maybe there's a way on that acknowledgement we can encourage them right there, like, oh, and don't forget to do ADS and maybe have some links or whatever. We'd have to look into how customized we can make that final acknowledgement, but
So
I think that would be good.
That's a good idea, Sharon. We actually we don't do it for existing members. We could change this a little bit, but as Veronica's still on, I also don't want to create more work for Veronica. I think there's a way in Squarespace that we can customize that email and at least add a paragraph and a link. And then for the new member emails, Veronica, you and I can kind of work together and redo that email a little bit and add some text about the ADS and a link to kind of encourage new members.
And at a timely meeting, we could take a few minutes and just review, why join the ADS. There's a slide set that reminds people what the benefits are, and we could have some testimonials of people that have joined and are glad they joined. So we could, do a little bit more that kind of
we could do
advertising.
something to get the new members. Like DSO, we're up to like 329 members or something. But out of that, only 80 some are members of ADS.
So we're having this discussion over $70 and we generate, thanks Sharon for that. So we generate tuber sales, plant sales. I don't remember how many thousands, but this seems like a round off error that we're just complicating the system with. And we should just not worry about it, to Ron's point, to encourage members to carry the ADS. So I think this is something we just absorb and go forward.
Yeah, I guess for me, I would rather that $70 go to the ADS first. Stripe, who processes the transactions. I also want to be thoughtful about the time the volunteers are spending with it. So both Nancy and Misty, and this has been like additional work for Misty as well. So, those that are kind of managing the process, I also want to consider their thoughts and opinions. And Misty was the one who kind of proposed the change. I know we talked about it, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, we had the same conversation about the ADS because it used to be if we sold a membership, members got a discount. And that's not the case anymore. Misty's coming from a place of also wanting to be fiscally responsible. And I understand it's $70. And yes, we have money in the bank, but in addition to that, there's work that both Nancy and Misty do to kind of keep things going in the communications with Elva. So I guess other thoughts on this? I don't know. Do we take a vote and we can show a raise of hands if people know how to raise their hands? If you're not on camera, Sharon or Jerry, how did this work in the past?
Well, what's easiest for Nancy and Misty? I would vote for that, whatever that is.
Well, the easiest is for them to join ADS on their own.
Yeah,
And if we put I think you mentioned it, if we put the link on our site that it automatically redirects them, what's the harm in that?
yeah, and it's something we can try for a year, see how it goes. Like that's something we can monitor too. And at the end of next year, if there's a huge decrease, maybe we reevaluate. But
Yeah.
Are we incurring extra effort in just incurring the $70?
yes, there's extra effort for Nancy and Misty to coordinate to send Elva a check. Elva gets the check, they check all the members. So it's work. So Misty,
And it's a little bit of a kludgy system too,
right?
as opposed to them going out and just directly signing up and getting an instant gratification that they are signed up.
That's clearly the bigger issue than the $70. And
Yeah, so too.
I guess if we start to lose ADS members because of a change, I would be very concerned about that. More than $70 concerned about it. But I don't see putting Nancy or Misty through extra work to avoid the member having to go to 2 spots. Are we talking about every year process, or I mean renewals as well?
It would be renewals as well. So Ron, instead of going to like the DSO website, you would just, well, you could still go to the DSO website and we'll send you there. Or under the ADS website, under, I think Sharon, it's join, right?
Yes, there's a join button on the top. There's a join button on the about tab.
Yeah.
We try to make it pretty obvious how to take your money.
The other thing we could do is send out just an email with a link specific to registering for the ADS. Like, just like the event Zoom link tonight, like that's easy enough for us to do.
Mhm.
Members could click on that link and it'll directly send you over there.
And our membership is now lined up with ADS May to April.
Yes.
Are both a DSO and ADS credit card payments?
Yes.
No,
Okay.
ADS is PayPal.
Oh, PayPal. Well, it's still a credit card. Like you're running.
Yes, but you can still do it on a credit card through PayPal.
Yeah.
And is there a fee though attached with that? Does it?
Yes, but ADS is paying for it at that point, as opposed to DSO paying for it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth a try.
And I think we can just do some advertising and some education on why to join ADS, and maybe we'll get more members that way.
I do think,
Well, I just hate to give Nancy and Misty extra work to do. After all, we're all volunteers, and it's if we can alleviate any of that kind of extra work, then I think it's worth it. It's worth a try. If it doesn't work, then we'll just have to think of something else.
It's Veronica. I was finally able to unmute. I'm totally fine if we want to do like even a separate new member email once someone has joined, just saying, welcome to DSO, but this is the ADS info also. Whatever you guys want to do, I'm good.
Yeah, and I've kind of been watching the new members that have been rolling in over the past month and a half. And I can't think of one that also signed up to the ADS. So I think that's
There was one. Just
another
one.
one.
Yeah, I just sent it in.
So I definitely think that's an area of opportunity as well. Okay. So are we going with like giving it a try for a year?
Okay with me.
All right. And Ron, I'll do my very best
I'm
to
okay with that.
promote it out the wazoo.
Good. Well, we must be doing something wrong if there aren't any people signing up among our new members.
Yeah, well, I think it's like, when I first joined, I also did not sign up. One, because I didn't know that it was a thing. Like I didn't understand the difference between a society and like,
Yeah.
I just didn't know. So maybe that's a good talk for early next year as well. Like to Sharon's point, what is the ADS? What do you benefit from being a member? Like, I think that's a good way to sell it. Because if you've never received the bulletin or you're new to showing, you might not necessarily have a reason to sign up.
Yeah.
And Alina just posted in the chat, and she said, as a relatively new member, I wanted to wait to see how useful my membership was before she went all in. So, Alina, hopefully your DSO membership has been useful.
And that you want to join the ADS. Go all in.
But the ADS bulletin is really, well, it's always been interesting, but it's very attractive now, and I think it's that publication alone is beneficial.
Oh, it's an outstanding publication. I look forward to that coming.
Yeah.
Nancy, when are we all due to renew then, since we're going to be doing this on our own? So we don't forget.
It's the same as, the DSO.
Okay.
It expires on April 30th.
Okay,
So we'll have several
thanks.
months of membership.
And I have a copy of the bulletin handy. So this is kind of what you can expect. It's just articles from across the US from different dahlia growers, photos, kind of storytelling. I think there's always growers who submit articles about their growing. There's articles on how to deal with insects, how to plant your tubers. I remember an article about vertical or horizontal, which completely changed how I plant my tubers. I now plant everything vertical, and it makes it so much easier to divide. Lots of shows the societies post and have like what's going on in the different societies. So definitely worth it. And you get this 3 times a year. So I think just the publication itself is worth the cost. But then in addition to it, you get Oh, the classification guide, which is new each year. So if you're showing, it kind of tells you the winners of all the shows. So if you're about to go Dahlia shopping,
Also, I'm a big pusher on the American Dahlia Society memberships. So the website has a members only login. So there is the free version of the online classification guide. But for members, there's an extended version, which will give you the hybridizer and the year it was introduced. And you can access all the bulletins dating back to the 1930s with a password, which is really fun to go through and read articles and see how much dahlias cost during the Depression and how much dahlias cost and how far people would drive to go to a dahlia show. They're just fun to go through when you're not feeling good. Gives you something to do. And the judging modules, you don't have to be ready to be a judge, but going through the judging modules, that's worth the $30 right there in gold. Yeah, so there's besides the bulletins, there's lots of digital benefits as well.
And can I interject something?
sure, Robert. It's
Sure.
good.
And hi, everybody. In my home, I'll call it my home society, the Mid-Island Dahlia Society. The few new members we do get generally parallel what you were saying. They want to take the baby steps, learn what's going on, and then join the ADS. As much as I try, I get the extra bulletins from Dan and give him a bulletin just to take home to read. I said, well, this is what it has to offer. And if you become more interested in it, you really need to make this step, because with the website, the members only part of the website, the bulletin, the newsletter, it's just a wealth of information that will help. But usually they don't join ADS too.
And see, Ron, we already got somebody, Tom, saying he's going to sign up and join the ADS. So our strategy's already working. So the other thing Bob reminded me is I did want to go over end of year financials, and it's not going to be completely end of year, but it's going to be through October 31st. But before I do that, I want to stop the recording.